Hey, good morning, good afternoon. I hope you're having a great day, great beginning to this day, historic day, a new president in our country, the transfer of power. I always wonder the question, is it the elders, is it the youth? We're inaugurating a president that's 78. We've had one that was 74, yet it's the youth that drive a lot of what's happened in this country. And in the beginning of this Torah portion, there's a fascinating discussion between Pharaoh and Moses, which I think really gets to the crux and essence of what it means to be a Jew and the Jewish future, elders, youth, etc. So the 7 plagues, last week's portion, Pharaoh's beaten up. He's hardened, he's stubborn, but he's beaten up. And finally, this week's Torah portion, when Moses comes to warn him about the 8th plague, of locusts, Pharaoh says, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to let you go. Tell me, who do you want to go? And Moses says, the famous words, Binareinu uviskeinenu nelech. With our youth, with our elders, we will go. Everyone's coming. And Pharaoh says, no, only the middle-aged people should go. Why are you sending these older people and these younger people? And the commentaries tell us that Pharaoh only wanted to let the people between 20 and 60 go. He didn't want the older people go, and he didn't want the younger people to go. And Moses says, no, we're all going. And the question is, why did Pharaoh, if Pharaoh was worried about slave labor and he wanted people to build him the pyramids, he should have actually said, let the older people go, let the younger people go, give me the middle age so they can work. Why did he want the older and the younger people to stay? He must have known something about the Jewish people and about their psyche, which is true. Because, imagine this, Moses, on the 15th day of Passover, the Jews are free. The Jews have dreamt of this for 200 plus years. Through slavery, through tyranny, through suffering, through murder. Finally, the day comes. Moses is that leader, that heroic leader who takes them out. Moses gets to give his first speech. Imagine, he's speaking to a nation of free people, millions of people. What do you think Moses would have said? Hey guys, l'chaim, get out the schnapps, get out the herring, a little chopped liver. Let's celebrate. Or he would have said, listen, the time is now. We're free to march ahead, march forward. Or he would have remembered all those who were killed and murdered. He would have said a Kaddish, a mass Kaddish. Yet, Moses gives a very anticlimactic speech, very ordinary speech. He keeps on mentioning, you should tell your children, when your children will ask you, and you should tell your children. In fact, the 4 sons we get the Agada are from Moses' speeches in this week's Torah portion, where 3 times he speaks to the kids, and once again in Deuteronomy. Is this the first speech he could have given? What's going on here? There's a fascinating Talmudic discussion. The Talmud says that the kings of Israel, they minted coins for Jerusalem. The kings of Jerusalem. What is a coin? A coin represents the currency. What was on the minted coin? On one side, the Talmud tells us, a picture of King Solomon and King David, and on the other side, a picture of Jerusalem. And then they minted a coin for Abraham to celebrate the first Jew. What was on that coin? On one side was a picture of an older man and older woman, and the other side was a picture of a young boy and girl. That's what the Talmud tells us. So the question is, on the Talmud Jerusalem, we understand, listen, David, after all, conquered Jerusalem. King Solomon was the one who built the temple. Makes sense that on a coin celebrating Jerusalem, the currency which shows its power, you put a picture of King Solomon and King David, and on the other side, you put a picture of the actual Jerusalem. But what about Abraham? Abraham was the first Jew. He was a wealthy man. He was a successful man. You would think that maybe you would have something of his power. Why do we have a picture of a young man and a young kid, boy and girl on the back side, and on the front side, the picture of an old man and an old girl, an old man and an old woman? And the answer is so important and so powerful. Moses understood in his first speech to the Jewish people, and the elders understood when they spoke about Abraham, that the only way the Jewish people survive and exist is because we look to our elders for inspiration and we focus to inspire the youth. The first thing before Jacob went down to Jerusalem, to Egypt to visit Joseph, was he sent Judah to go build a yeshiva there. He said, I'm not going down if there's no education, if we don't focus on the youth. But yet, the Talmud tells us that Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, the great sage, who combined and authored, so to speak, the whole Mishnah, send the great sages around from city to city to make sure there were teachers teaching the youth. And he came to one city and said, bring me your protectors. And they brought the soldiers. He said, no. He said, bring me your protectors. So they brought the judges. He said, no. He said, I want the youth, they're your protectors. But youth without direction, without elders to remind them where they come from and inspire them with where they have to go to, is nothing. A youth that's left for the wilderness, that's left to chaos, that's left to do whatever they want, what mission does that have? That's why the first coin of Abraham had the picture of an elder, man and woman on one side, and the picture of a young boy and girl on the other side. We need our older people, our elders, to forge the way, to inspire us, to teach us where to go. And we need the youth, because they're the future. There's a famous story I might have once told you. Rabbi Lau, who was the former chief rabbi of Israel, survived from Buchenwald. In fact, he made headlines again last week because he got the vaccine twice and then he got COVID. Thank God he got it very lightly. He's in his late 80s now. But he says a story that when Gorbachev tore down the Iron Curtain right at the beginning of 1989, as a gesture to the Jewish community, he let 6 rabbis come to Moscow. And one of those 6 rabbis was Rabbi Lau, the chief rabbi of Israel. And they spent 6 days trying to inspire the Jews. There was no Jewish infrastructure there then. There was nothing. He says when they're ready to leave, he was walking back to his hotel, and this old man, Beryl, says, can I come with you? He says, sure, and they're walking. And Beryl's corrects him. Beryl says, you know, you came here, you sang with us, you inspired us, you taught us Judaism, you gave us love. But now you go back to Israel, and you'll leave us here alone in a place void of spirituality, void of Judaism, void of holiness, of any infrastructure of Judaism. How can we go on? So Rabbi Lau turns to this old man, Beryl. He says, Beryl, how old are you? He says, I'm 86. And he says, what do you do for a living? He says, I'm a shaykhid, I'm a slaughterer. But I haven't seen a piece of meat in years. So Rabbi Lau says to him, you know what? I have become connected through my stay here with some dignitaries. They don't need you. You can't work. Why don't I get connections and get you to go to Israel with me? You could even come on my plane. And the guy's face lights up. He says, oi. He says, how I would wish to go touch the walls of Jerusalem, the stones of the Kotel, and pray there. But he says, you know, I have one daughter. She married out. She has 2 children. They don't live in Moscow. They live 2 hours away. But once a month on a Wednesday, they'll bring my children here. And on that Wednesday, I get dressed in my Shabbos clothing. It's the holiest day. And I take my 9-year-old and 11-year-old grandchildren, 2 boys, and I put them on my laps. And I tell them Shema Yisrael. And I tell them about Moses, who was the one who gave us the Torah. I tell them about our history. And those are the 2 hours that are the most important to me in the whole month. What would my grandchildren do without me? I can't go. Rabbi Lau finishes the story, and I'll say it now. Somewhere in the world today, there's a 41-year-old and a 39-year-old who know their heritage and know who they are because they had a grandfather that cared. That was the argument between Pharaoh and Moses. Moses says, with our youth and our elders we will go. We will go with our youth, our future, but only with the elders coming with to show them the way forward. Because of this old man, Beryl, his grandchildren today love and cherish Judaism and know that they're Jewish. That's why the coin of Jerusalem had a young boy and girl on one side and an elder man and an elder woman on the other side. Because Moses in his first speech made something clear. What makes the Jewish people tick? What made us survive? What makes us who it is? It's our always focusing on the children, on the future, but looking at our elders for the guidance of where to go. God bless you all. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.